Thank you very much, John. I need to adjust that slightly. And thank you to Skills Tasmania for inviting us here and affording us this opportunity to share our learning with you. It's a very brief presentation. I'm going to try and stick to time as best I can. Being the first speaker, I don't want to interrupt anyone else's presentations. So I have prepared some notes and they are available on the Business Action Learning Tasmania website. So that's businessactionlearningtas.com.au. Go to the publications page and you can access a link to be able to get to those notes. So I'm going to keep it very brief. It's going to be dot points. There's going to be a lot of missing information, but we're staying on for the World Cafe. Bob Cother and Christine Cother, the directors of Action Learning Institute, are here with me, and Vanessa Sullivan from Tasrail is also here, and I think she's participating in the cafe conversations, so you'll be able to ask us lots of questions to fill those gaps later. So just to clarify, Business Action Learning Tasmania is the network of companies who have been using action learning over the last 7 years here in Tasmania, and the Action Learning Institute is the research and training partner for that network. So we help to design, we co-design the programs, and we also issue the qualifications. So, what is action learning? And you probably have some preconceived ideas based on the name. Some of you may have some experience with action learning. It's an approach to individual and organisational learning. It's not training and it's not consulting, and it doesn't entirely replace either of those things, but it does have some advantages over both of them. People work in small groups known as action learning sets, and they take on organisational and social challenges, and they learn from their attempts to improve things. That's it in a nutshell, really. But discovery and reflection are key. And Reg Revens, who he developed most of the principles around action learning, he was never very clear about exactly what it is. He didn't want to be too prescriptive, but he was always very clear about what it's not. So here's a list of things that it's not. It's not project work, it's not case studies, it's not business games, simulations, group dynamics, consultancy, industrial engineering, work study, or even simple common sense. It's far less structured than all of these approaches. It leaves the set to discover how best to help each other. Now you might wonder, we do a lot of action learning projects. So you might say, well, how can that be action learning if it's a project? But the project work he's talking about is the planning and implementation of a known solution. So our projects are based around a problem and involve a lot of wicked problem solving. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec. So why do we need it? And I think you all know what I'm going to say. If you're not a disruptor, you're going to experience disruption at some point in the future. So everything's changing so quickly. We hear it all the time about the rate of change of technology. We hear about all of the external environmental factors affecting businesses, things like an ageing workforce, global supply chains, global warming. All of these things require us to take a new approach. All of these things mean that in order to survive, we actually have to have continual step changes in competency in our workforce. We need new skills, soft skills. We need creativity, problem solving, teamwork, leadership. All of these things are very difficult to develop through conventional educational systems. We need to innovate, but all of the models of innovation that you look at, radical innovation, open innovation, they all incorporate collaboration. And we're not very good at doing that in Australia, and Tasmania is no different. Businesses aren't very good at collaborating, doing things like joint ventures around product development, those sorts of things, which are really required for us to be able to keep up with the rest of the world. Employers here are also not deriving the same value from their employees as other high-cost economies. So places like Germany and Sweden, they really utilise all of the talent that they have available in their organisations. And in Australia, we leave a lot of that talent on the table, so to speak, particularly the talent that exists in our frontline workers. So action learning is a low-risk way for businesses to practice collaboration and allow their employees to develop those skills, and also to tap into that talent that's already available in their organisations. And we're just going to play a little video. This is some of the business outcomes that have been achieved by some of the companies involved in BALT. Click it again.
Bilbao Aluminium was able to source locally rather than actually bringing them in from China, which was terrific from the local business perspective, and it also enabled us to recycle a lot of the materials.
The tangible outcomes were we saved probably 10 hours a week in changeover time, which gave us an extra 10 hours a week in productivity time, which meant our efficiency, our overall efficiency has gone up nearly 7% for this year. And every year we kind of put a plan together to gain just 1 or 2%. This year we've gained 7%, which is really unheard of.
For our company, we retained the work. We actually got the work that we were probably going to lose. It was probably going to go to China. So therefore it shored up 2 people's jobs.
The outcomes for us was we were able to reduce our B services on our locomotives from 4 days down to 3 days. So that increased our availability. We were able to turn around our services a lot quicker, which frees up resources, our internal resources, to do more valuable work as well.
Pretty well all our recommendations got implemented, and they're still going now. Some of the big things, just the quality control from our end, that's still right up around 98%, where it used to be about 70%, so we have seen some big benefits from it.
Yep. So they were all talking about business outcomes, and one of the aspirations of BALT, and one of the things that they always aim to do, is to get business outcomes as well as the learning outcomes. So we need to have some measurable outcomes from the learning. So that's how we tend to motivate people to implement the changes that are required, and through the action learning, they can address wicked problems in their organisations, which will help them to get those step change results. So wicked problems, we talk a lot about wicked problems in action learning, and Reg Revens, please Google Reg Revens. He's a fascinating bloke, and you'll find some hilarious videos of him that looks like something out of Monty Python, the interviews. But he really did do a fantastic job of figuring out this action learning approach. He suggests that we can solve the most difficult challenges and problems through our own experience and learning. And the really difficult problems, the ones that don't really have a right answer, can't be solved by experts, because experts deal in right answers. So they can only really be resolved by the people who are experiencing the problems and facing those challenges. So he talks about a spectrum of problems, and there's more in the notes about critical and tame problems, but action learning is really intended to address wicked problems. So those are problems that defy rational analysis and require leadership and learning. They're messy, circular and aggressive. Simple strategies and straightforward solutions don't often address these wicked problems very, very effectively, and often you get a lot of unintended results. In terms of business improvement, all of the tame problems have really been addressed by things like Lean and Six Sigma and continual improvement. Now we're dealing with things like culture and all of the people issues that are more difficult to address using a linear approach, because you really don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how humans are going to respond to a particular action. So how does it work? Well, you have these small teams, and it's really important that there's diversity in the teams. So that means that you get some fresh eyes and objective views on a problem. When we talk about diversity, we talk about diversity in learning styles, background, experience, and particularly roles within the organisation. There are no experts in the set. The set can consult with experts, but you really should try not to have too many narrow specialists in the group, because they tend to direct the group towards a known solution or a solution that already exists in another context. Often they might be, because they deal in right answers, they might be wedded to a particular system, and that dampens the opportunity for innovation and coming up with something completely new. So usually with wicked problems, there's a number of dimensions. There's not one solution. There's usually a range of activities that need to be undertaken. And experts tend to bring technical solutions and want to apply them in a linear fashion. There's limited theory. So Reg Revens has an equation, L equals P plus Q, which is learning equals programmed learning plus questioning. It's a little bit like the action research model, if you've heard of action research. We call it programmed learning on demand. You do need programmed learning. We can learn from people who have an expertise in an area and have experience with it. But we like to say, get in there and do something, and then figure out what theory you need later. And our project teams, that's exactly what they do. They'll explore a problem and then decide what tools they might need to look at in order to address the problem. And of course, again, most importantly, that cycle of action and reflection. So the discovery and then the reflection on what we've learnt, and actually making that implicit learning explicit. So why does it work? Well, in BALT's case, it works because we're dealing with real problems of vital importance to these companies. There's skin in the game. People want to see a solution found. Each of these slides represents a project that's been undertaken, and the slides will be available on the website as well. So each one of these projects has addressed an issue of vital importance to the companies, and we've had 16 companies involved so far, and we're up to our 21st project. It engages employees in the problem. It's a natural way for adults to learn. And if you think about how you learn most new things these days, you probably look up something on YouTube and then give it a go. And that's because that's the way we prefer to learn. It values different styles of learning, and we follow the Honey and Mumford model of the various styles of learning. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. Bob prefers it because he says it's the only one he understands. But there's a range of learning styles. There's theorists, of course, there's pragmatists, there's activists, and there's reflectors. The traditional education system really favours theorists. So if you enjoyed going to school, you probably will then enjoy going to university. But people who are activists, that's probably their worst nightmare. And they don't learn in that situation. So how do you get started? You don't need any experience or any particular skills. You don't need a consultant to come in and show you how to do it. You can just start doing it. The most important thing is that when you put a set together, that there is diversity in the group, that you make sure there's no experts, and that people ask good questions rather than making statements or coming in and rushing to a solution. There really needs to be that exploration and discovery. There's a few schools of thought on facilitation. We do facilitated programs, but our approach is that the facilitator should really be stepping back, and the intention should be that eventually the team should be as self-directed as possible. In our case, because we're delivering nationally recognised qualifications, there's some additional requirements of the facilitator in terms of collecting evidence and ensuring that all of the performance criteria are met. But in an ideal world, teams would actually be self-directed. You need to invest resources, you need people, you need time, and really the people is the part that most businesses struggle with. You really need to allocate time in people's workday to do this learning, to take the actions, to plan the actions, to take the actions, and then reflect on what they've learnt from those actions. It also requires leadership, so there needs to be leadership support for these activities. But most of all, you need to trial. You just need to trial ideas, try new things. Experimentation is possibly the most important thing. So you need to unleash the talent in your organisation by granting permission to fail, basically, and giving people the authority within a framework of risk assessment to be able to try new things within their work area. And of course, you need to make sure you allow that time for planning and reflection, as I said. And you should share the learning. So we have these review forums at the end of every program. Everyone, well, I don't know if I should say it, but there's a term, dropping your DAX. Everyone gets in there and drops their DAX and you know, talks about what happened, what went wrong, what worked. And everybody learns from each other, and they, you know, some really challenging questions come up. This is the senior management of Bell Bay, Cement Australia and Tasrail in the room, and the project team members, most of them, some of them are operators, some of them are middle management, and they're presenting to their senior management, you know, how their project went. And they get some challenging questions, and it's fantastic. There's the feeling in the room on the day, and Vanessa will be able to speak to this in a sec, is really amazing. And companies are very generous with their time and their information. You'd be surprised how much information gets shared. People always ask about that. What about confidentiality? Well, once you're able to look someone in the eye and there's been a bit of reciprocity going on, the trust is built quite quickly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask Vanessa to come up now. Vanessa's just she's a project team member who's just completed a project at Tasrail, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the participant experience and the employee experience of action learning. Thanks, Vanessa. I think that's, is that gonna, yep, there you go.
Just the right hand one. Just adjust that. Thanks, Jen. So I'm Vanessa, I'm from Tasrail, I'm the customer service manager there, and I also got to participate in our BALT project, which is on freight availability. So what freight availability is just a term we use for making sure that we deliver freight on time for our customers to come and collect it. As a customer service manager, that's quite important to me. This is our project team. There are 3 people from Tasrail on the left-hand side, and we have David from Cement Australia, and we've got Aaron from Bell Bay Aluminium as well on our team. And we spent 5 weeks investigating what this wicked problem was. That included going out on site, having a look at the problem in action, as well as talking about it in, I guess, a meeting room. David and Aaron also got the opportunity to ride on one of our trains from Burnie through to Devonport. So we took a year to do the BALT project. We've only just finished and concluded our presentations, so that has allowed us to implement what our recommendations are and see some of the outcomes that we've achieved. So our project objectives were to annualise freight sustainability and availability, provide a clear pathway to schedule trains on an annual basis and meet customer expectations, taking into consideration the Tasmanian climate. So with our rail network, during the summer when it's really hot, our rail will buckle, and during the winter when it's really cold, our track also has issues. Also development of an effective engagement plan through the project and implementation of those recommendations, and decrease crisis management, increase opportunities to work on the business. So what I mean by that is, prior to this BALT project, a lot of managers and supervisors, such as myself, spent a lot of time firefighting issues relating to poor freight availability performance. And as a result of the BALT project, we actually implemented some measures to counteract this. So this slide just talks about the improvement targets that we set. First and foremost, maintain safe operations, and of course the number 1 priority for us at Tasrail is to ensure safety for our employees and manage risk well. Go home safe and well. The two graphs there relate to the general train freight availability. So our target for that was 98%, which is 49 out of 50 train services, and 95% for what we call the paper train, which is the service we run for Norske Skog, with 19 out of 20 train services. So based on this, we came up with a range of improvement actions, which we started implementing up until now, and some of them are still ongoing. So this graph shows some of the outcomes that we achieved. It represents the missed freight availability events over the last 2.5 years. The blue lines indicate step change in freight availability performance since the commencement of the BALT project in August 2016. And the red lines indicate the more detailed record keeping that we incorporated into the business in the last 12 months during the BALT project. So we really broke down what the key drivers for the missed freight availability events were. And that assisted us to then, again, choose what actions we need to implement so they were targeted to the real problems. It also shows some new challenges that we faced this calendar year, and you can see the spikes at the end of the graph there that indicate that. So you can see for yourselves, generally there's a positive trend that missed freight availability events are decreasing. I hope I'm not taking too much time. So this is what we achieved. The tangible result is a 27% improvement in freight availability from the financial year 15-16 to last financial year, which is 16-17. So to put that in a dollar term, it loosely equates to about $100,000 saving in operational costs and production efficiencies. There is a number of intangible benefits also for running this project within the business. And as Jen mentioned before, we learned a variety of new tools which we can apply in the business in our own work teams and also transfer that learning to other people within the business. We built our confidence and we learnt firsthand that can solve a problem without management intervention. So getting into some lessons learnt. On the slide there's some words that we presented on that day in the picture as well. Establishing an achievable goal is important. The solution is never straightforward. There was no silver bullet to solve this problem. The fresh perspectives from the away guys, Aaron and David, were really valuable. We love a Pareto analysis now at Tasrail. We do it for everything. The communication of information visually to employees is important, and the root cause for missed FA will continue to vary. So the other comment that I want to make here is that change is never easy in a business, and this is also the case at Tasrail. However, the benefits of undertaking BALT mean that key leaders have new skills that they can utilise in the business. The learnings from BALT are transferable to other people in the business. And we've learnt just how powerful it was for our business to empower us and undertake this project, learn what we've learned, and importantly achieve a positive outcome for the business. So in reflecting on our project, I'm not going to read out the slide there, you can read that for yourself, but basically we were able to undertake professional development and still achieve an outcome for the business. So that's 2 thumbs up for that. Applying lean business theory into a real situation or problem at work made understanding the theory easier, and also how to apply it in different situations effectively. And also being able to present our findings to an audience, although maybe not so today because there's a lot of people here, was also enjoyable because we got to revel in the success that we actually achieved, which was really important for us. We also undertook some peer reflection, and I guess for me personally, I can say that being a part of this project has made me a better leader and coach for my team. But probably for me, the thing that I got a lot of enjoyment out of was actually watching my colleagues Matt and Jeff grow as professionals within our business, and also personally. I'm quite proud of how they've applied themselves to this project and how that is now carrying on throughout the business. So in a nutshell, participating in BALT has allowed me to integrate lean business tools into my team that I manage. I have coaching conversations with my colleagues, and it's also opened doors that I didn't think I could at Tasrail. Well, so much so that my boss, who was supposed to be doing this presentation, has asked me to act on his behalf as General Manager for a period of time now while he can have some leave. So I feel confident that I can achieve that now. So thanks, Jen, and your part in that. That's it. That's it from me.
She's pretty amazing, and we see transformations all the time of people that take part in these programs, and you know, not to make it sound like a cult, but maybe it is. But at all of the organisations at BALT, all of this stuff is really driven by industry, and I mean, I'm up here talking about it, but we're really observers, and this seems to be happening and gathering momentum almost faster than we can keep up. So it's really amazing. So I want to encourage you to go and have a look at the website. If you know anyone in the BALT who's been through a BALT program, have a chat to them. You know, people have varying experiences, but in general, everybody gets business outcomes, learning outcomes, and develop relationships with other companies that endure. So I'm going to leave it there. I'd really like to thank Vanessa for coming up, and particularly because she did step in for Bob, who was going to do the most of that presentation. She's done a great job. So I hope I have the opportunity to talk to some of you later on at during the cafe discussions, and I'm going to exit the stage and make sure we stay on track. Thanks, John.